Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Graham Noble, Andrew Moran, Scott Cosenza, and Joe Schaefer. And this is the Conservative Five, Liberty Nation's online TV news program. As Liberty Nation reported, the Justice Department's special counsel, Robert Hur, finished his 300-plus page report on Joe Biden, storing classified docs in all sorts of unsecure places. The president was essentially exonerated due to his inability to understand wrongdoing. Seriously. Hur also planted this bomb in the middle of explaining himself, citing Biden as, I quote, a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory and diminished faculties in advancing age, end quote. Instead of strategizing that during a busy Super Bowl weekend, their report would go unnoticed, Biden made a hasty address to the nation and then, believe it or not, took questions from the White House press corps, where he confused the names of the president of Egypt with the president of Mexico, confirming every fear the American public already has regarding his obvious cognitive decline. Talking heads scrambled as the president poured kerosene on his already dumpster fire re-election campaign. Are we having fun yet? Graham seems to advise the Biden bunch to put the shovels down.
Well, yeah, this is a great one. Well, first of all, I'd like to start by saying that you did use the word exonerated. You said kind of something like he was exonerated. I would suggest that he wasn't at all exonerated by that report. The report made it very clear that he mishandled sensitive government information, including even reading some of it to his ghostwriter. But basically, that the report said, he absolutely was guilty of, misconduct. But it's like a defense attorney arguing that his client, a defendant in a murder case, should not be convicted due to diminished responsibility. This is pure speculation on my part, because obviously I'm not in Robert Hur's head. I have no idea what the man personally thinks about Joe Biden or about anything else. But I can't help thinking that Robert Hur at some point was told by someone higher up in the Justice Department, look, we got to make sure that there's no way this ever comes to the point where criminal charges can be brought against Joe Biden. And I think probably that irked Robert Hur, not necessarily from a personal political point of view, but maybe just it hurt his, integrity as a prosecutor. And he probably thought, okay, so you want me to come up with an excuse why Biden can't be criminally convicted? I'll give you an excuse. He's a frail old man who doesn't know what day of the week it is, and no jury would convict him because they'd feel sorry for him. Now, that's, like I said, that's just me speculating there, but I can't help thinking that there was almost a little bit of spite in that report. But of course, the Justice Department does have a rule as well that, sitting presidents are not criminally charged. So some of the people who are saying, well, this is, it's terrible because Trump has been hauled up, on charges over his classified documents. But Biden isn't. Oh, that double standard. Well, Biden would only ever have been criminally charged with anything after he left office. I mean, he's a sitting president. Obviously, there were going to be no charges brought against him at the moment. The man has a terrible temper, as we all know now.
Read what I said.
I particularly liked, though, that he was feigning outrage over the fact that Mr. Hur included in his report that Joe Biden could not remember the date of his son's death, his son Beau, of course, who died of brain cancer.
How dare he raise that?
And I thought it funny that Joe Biden, when he was speaking about it, he was all just outraged. How dare he bring my son into this? Now, Joe Biden himself has time and time again invoked the name of his son when he is campaigning and when he's speaking about anything. He's done it over and over again. And not only that, but he has on multiple occasions falsely claimed that his son died in Iraq. So I thought that was funny, and in fact, even in the it turns out even in the report, it wasn't her that suddenly brought up the subject of Beau Biden. It was Joe Biden himself, as he always does. I thought that was one of the particularly more funny parts of the report.
Well, Andrew, you are the LN staff expert here. We love the Biden speak that you come up with. I'd kind of like to know what he actually did say in his rebuttal speech, because I couldn't figure out where he was going. He was just all over the place.
What Graham just made a great point when President Biden was talking about his son Beau. He said that Robert Hur asked him about it, but the report says that he never asked about it, and further reports close to the situation confirm, according to Fox News anyway, that Robert Hur, never brought up Beau Biden at all. It was Joe Biden who did it. He invoked him yet again, claimed that he died in Iraq, even though that never happened. But anyway, so all the other things too, you mentioned that press conference. One of them was, of course, mixing up Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and claim that he's a president of Mexico. So that's another thing. The entire point of that press conference after that Hur report was to display how strong, resolute, and on top of things Joe Biden is. But of course, it completely backfired because it confirmed what Hur was explaining. This is a frail old man who's he has a terrible memory, and he can't handle thinking on the spot. Heck, even when he has a teleprompter in front of him, he can't do it. He says things like "bad a cath care" or "chewing out your pressure" or "you don't get a benefit from women," things like that. So it just the press conference was a complete terrible idea on the part of the administration.
I could not find a single consonant in it, and I really had to turn it off. I'm going to go to Joe on this one. Can you maybe tell us how or where the country of Mexico is, and how Kamala Harris would explain that?
Mexico, well, it is a burgeoning continent. That's a Seinfeld joke that maybe Andrew will get. There's layers to that joke, if you know the. I think Kamala is actually the ace card for Joe Biden here, because as much as you criticize him, look who would be taking his place if he steps down. Kellyanne Fitzpatrick, or Kellyanne Conway, excuse me, I'm showing my age, said that just the other day. She's Joe Biden's greatest weapon, because as horrible as he is, she's the one who's next in line. But this was a disaster for the Biden administration. I think, just to follow on what Graham was saying, they expect just, Merrick Garland, Justice Department investigations to be just a show, just a theater. We know the serious charges are for Donald Trump, but we got to pretend that it's even-handed. And then Hur threw this, total grenade into the nest that they weren't expecting. And I really think it was like Biden feeling he was betrayed. It's like, no, this isn't the way the game's supposed to be played. So there is bitterness there. I think Hur didn't want to play the game. I think Graham's right about that. And Biden thought the game was being played. It just shows again how orchestrated and scripted everything about this administration is. And it's not holding up. It's not holding up to the American people. It's hard for it to hold up when the main person involved in the play can't read the script, can't read his lines. So, it's all turning bad. And the person who I think is looking great for all this is Gavin Newsom. I wrote about it over a year ago, I believe. This is what he's always wanted. He didn't want to run for president. He wants to be asked to run for president, asked to come in to shine light on his white Charger, and it's all setting up for him. Gavin Newsom is the big winner here. He so desperately wants to be asked, come save us, come be our nominee. And you know what? I think everything is playing out for him perfectly. And, Kamala Harris's mere presence just helps him as it helps Biden. It's just a train wreck in that White House right now.
Here's one thing that really drove me crazy. I've been around the horn on a lot of different kinds of state, local, national, presidential campaigns. And when news drops late in the week, like the Hur report kind of dropped a little bit late in the week, and you have a Super Bowl coming up, you just shut up and let something else take over the news cycle. And I could not understand, and it keeps going and going and going, and everybody's talking about it, and it's all from his administration. I mean, Scott, do you think he has any staffers that are clued in on political PR.
It's shocking that they didn't wait for later in the week to drop it and then just not say anything about it. But you never know really who's pulling the levers over there, because clearly, Biden isn't the one who's doing it by himself. Really, no president does it by himself, with the exception of maybe Trump. And I don't mean that as a compliment. I just mean it as, he was alone in how he seemed to act on these things unilaterally. But that turn back on the press conference, okay, to take questions and then come back.
Your judgment.
Boy, you could just see, they're just cringing, right? Like, oh my God, what is this going to do? And of course, that just accrues to scariness about Joe Biden's mental capacity, right? Like, if he's not totally scripted, what is going to happen? That's where the danger is for them politically. I think that the best speculation, Graham got into some speculation, so I'll dip my toe in because it's so much fun, that I've heard, and I heard it for the first time today, is that the speculation is that the Obama camp, having fully now soured on Biden's reelection, is doing a campaign of embarrassment because they can't force him out, so they have to get him to want to leave, and they're going to do that by basically making everybody think that he's President Poopy Pants as a legacy instead of the guy who turned the country around after COVID or something like that.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, that we have a conspiracy theorist on panel, and it kind of looks like they're just letting him hang himself.
I would just say, excuse me, Andrew, I just want to get on the record. I don't think it's going to accrue to Gavin Newsom's benefit like Joe does, by the way. I'm fascinated to see how it will, just because I don't think a cisgendered white male is going to be their they're going to let themselves pick too. That. It's got to be.
We need a color. We need a different color.
Yeah.
Just say it. All right. Well,
I'll tell you, Scott, that you shouldn't complain about my complexion. Is
that your Gavin Newsom?
Yes, that's my Gavin.
I don't know who it was, but last show Andrew promised he wouldn't do any more of these impressions, and yet here we are. So
Scott brought it out of
I'm closing this puppet down. I'm gonna close it with the words of Liberty Nation senior political analyst Tim Donner. Quote, Biden's mental fitness is no longer amusing. If it ever was, it has become an issue beyond politics. Average Americans reading just the headlines in pro-Biden media will surely be alarmed at the specter of a man with diminished mental faculties controlling the nuclear football. Thanks, panel. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 show and segments on your favorite video platform, YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble. We're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. And it's an all-new 24/7 channel. So check us out. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for Free Thinking, Free Speech, LibertyNation.com.
Don't get caught up in the media madness. Join our movement for free thinking and free speech at LibertyNation.com. Publishing news and analysis 24/7 with original articles by our team of authors who tell it like it is. Join us each week for online TV shows, The Uprising Podcast, and Liberty Nation Radio. We believe in free thinking and free speech. We are LibertyNation.com.